This happened in October of 2021, about a week after I moved into my first house. It was a small two-bedroom at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac. Nothing special, just old, renovated, and quiet. I was 27 and living alone for the first time. The first few nights were normal, too normal. I'd come from an apartment where there was always noise, neighbors, pipes, traffic. Here, after midnight, it was completely silent. On the fourth night, I woke up at 2:30 a.m. No loud sound, no crash, just that sudden feeling that something wasn't right. I lay there staring at the ceiling. Then I heard it, a soft click, like a doorknob turning somewhere in the house. I held my breath. A second later, a slow creak, like a door opening. My bedroom door was already open. I always left it open. From my bed, I could see down the hallway. The only light came from a small bathroom nightlight. The hallway looked empty. After a minute, I grabbed my phone and checked the house. Front door locked, back door locked, windows closed, spare bedroom door shut. I went back to bed, feeling stupid. The next morning, the spare bedroom door was open, just a few inches. I knew I'd closed it, but I brushed it off. Over the next few days, small things started happening. The kitchen cabinet under the sink would be slightly open. The chain on the back door would be unlatched in the morning. Once I came home and the hallway light was on. I never left lights on. Every time I blamed myself. One Friday night, I had a friend over. We were watching a movie when she muted the TV. Did you hear that? 3 slow taps from the back of the house. We both froze. Then it came again. 3 taps on the glass. I walked into the kitchen and flipped on the light, pulled up the blinds. The backyard was empty. No trees, no movement. She left soon after. That night I double-checked every lock. Around 3 a.m. I woke up again. This time I knew why. Footsteps, slow and careful, in the living room. They stopped. Then I heard the back door handle move, not violently, just gently, back and forth, testing it. I grabbed my phone and dialed 999 but didn't press call. The handle stopped, then 3 soft taps on the glass. I pressed call. While it rang, I heard the sound of the chain sliding into place. From the inside, I always latched it before bed, which meant it had been unlatched, which meant someone had already been inside. The police searched the house. Nothing. No forced entry. They suggested I might have forgotten to lock up. The next day, I bought security cameras, one in the hallway, one in the living room. 3 nights later, at 2:47 a.m., I got a motion alert. Hallway camera. I opened the footage. The spare bedroom door was slowly opening. No one in frame, no shadow, just the door moving on its own. It stopped halfway and stayed there. Police came again, less concerned this time. Said maybe the latch was loose. I stayed somewhere else for a few days. When I came back during the afternoon to grab clothes, the house felt wrong. My closet door was open. Inside, my clothes were shifted. One jacket was on the floor. At the back of the closet, the carpet was indented, like someone had been sitting there. I looked up at the ceiling. The attic hatch was slightly open. I dragged a chair over and climbed up. My hands were shaking. Inside the attic, tucked between the beams, was a sleeping bag, a half-empty water bottle, food wrappers. Someone had been living up there, above my bedroom. The police finally took it seriously, but whoever had been there was gone. The locks were changed, extra bolts installed. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Then one night, I woke up at 2:31 a.m. No alerts, no noise, just that feeling. I was facing the wall. Then I heard it, a slow exhale. Behind me, close. I didn't move. I could feel someone standing there. Another slow breath right above my head, then a soft shuffle, and the faint click of my bedroom door closing. I stayed frozen until morning. When I finally turned around, the room was empty. The door was shut. But on my nightstand next to my phone was something that hadn't been there before, a folded piece of paper. Inside was a printed photo of me, sleeping, taken from inside my room. I moved out that week. But even now, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I don't turn around right away because part of me still thinks he's standing there. I didn't even use the guest bedroom for the first month after I moved in. It just stayed closed. The house wasn't big, but it had an extra room at the end of the hallway. I figured I'd turn it into an office eventually. For the first few weeks, though, I didn't have reason to go in there. I always kept the door shut, and that's why I noticed when it wasn't. The first time I assumed I'd forgotten to close it properly. It was open maybe 2 inches, nothing dramatic, just enough that it caught my attention when I walked past. I shut it firmly. The next morning it was open again, same amount. After that, I started checking it every night before bed. I made sure the latch clicked. I even pulled on the handle to confirm it was secure. It kept opening, always just slightly. Around the same time, I started noticing other small things. The hallway would feel warmer than the rest of the house sometimes. Once I came home from work and thought I smelled something unfamiliar. Not strong, just faint body odor, like someone had been sweating. I told myself it was the vents. One night, just after 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of movement, not loud, fabric shifting, then a slow creak from the hallway floorboard. I didn't move. The guest bedroom door was open again. From my bed, I could see the dark frame of it at the end of the hall, and inside the room, I thought I saw something darker than the rest of the shadows, like someone standing just inside. I turned on my lamp immediately. The hallway was empty. The guest room looked normal. The next day, I decided to finally set the room up properly. I moved a small desk in there and cleared out the closet. That's when I noticed the carpet inside the closet. One corner was flattened, not from storage. It looked compressed in a very specific spot, like someone had been standing there repeatedly. I pressed my hand into the drywall behind it and noticed something else. The wall sounded hollow. Later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Around 3 a.m., I heard it again. Slow footsteps. In the hallway. Not rushed. Measured. They stopped outside my bedroom. The strip of light under my door disappeared, blocked by something. I could see the shadow shift slightly. Someone was standing there. I didn't breathe. After what felt like minutes, the shadow moved away. I heard the guest bedroom door close, not slam, just a quiet click. I called the police. They searched the house. Nothing obvious at first, but when one officer checked the attic access inside the guest room closet, he noticed insulation disturbed directly above that space. They cut into the drywall beside the closet. Behind it was a narrow cavity between the interior wall and the outer brick, just wide enough for someone thin to stand. There were empty water bottles inside, food wrappers, a small flashlight. Whoever had been there wasn't in the house anymore, but they'd been living inside the wall, entering through the attic and coming down into the cavity through a small opening, using the guest room closet as cover. Right next to my bedroom, I stayed somewhere else that night. A week later, I moved out. About a month after I left, the neighbor called me. She asked if I'd ever had issues with someone trying to get inside. I told her yes. She said 2 nights earlier, she saw someone standing in the guest room window. The house was empty. No one had moved in yet. The lights were off, but she could see the outline of someone inside, standing still, facing the street. She thought it might have been a squatter. but the house had been locked up. I didn't ask any more questions. I blocked her number after that. The lockbox was still attached to the front railing the day I got the keys. The estate agent told me it would be collected later that week. It wasn't, it just stayed there. At first, I ignored it. I didn't have the code, so it wasn't my problem. The first week in the house was quiet. Then, small things started feeling off. One morning, I came downstairs, and one of the kitchen chairs was slightly pulled out from the table, not far, just enough that it wasn't lined up. I live alone. I'm careful about that kind of thing. I always push chairs in. The next day, the cupboard under the sink was open. The day after that, the bathroom mirror cabinet was ajar. Nothing missing, nothing broken, just moved. I started blaming myself. New house, new routines. One night, just after midnight, I heard the front door open. It wasn't kicked in. There was no bang, just the quiet sound of the latch clicking. Then the hinges. Slow, careful. I sat up in bed instantly. A second later, the hallway light turned on. I hadn't left it on. Footsteps moved across the living room floor. Not rushed, not sneaking, just steady, like someone walking through their own house. They stopped outside my bedroom. I stared at the door. The handle didn't turn. Instead, I heard 3 soft knocks, evenly spaced, then nothing. A few seconds later, the hallway light switched off. The front door closed. I didn't move for at least 5 minutes. When I finally checked, the house looked untouched, but the front door was unlocked. The next morning, I went straight to the lockbox. It was hanging open. Inside was a key, my key, a copy I didn't know existed. I called the estate agent immediately. They insisted the lockbox code had been changed after completion. I removed the box myself that day and changed every lock. For about 2 weeks, nothing happened. Then I started noticing the car, parked across the street. Same dark hatchback, sometimes during the afternoon, sometimes late at night. Engine off. Someone inside. I could never clearly see their face. Whenever I looked too long, the car would pull away slowly. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then one night around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps again. In the living room. Heavier this time. I called the police immediately. While they searched, one officer examined the front door closely. He found a thin plastic card wedged inside the frame. It had been slid between the latch and the strike plate. Whoever it was didn't need a key. They just needed access once. After that, I installed a deadbolt and a door camera. For a few nights, I finally slept. Then the camera alert went off. 2:13 a.m., I opened the app. The porch light was off, but I could see someone standing just outside the door, not trying the handle, not moving, just standing there, facing the camera. The hood of their jacket was up. Their face wasn't visible. They stayed there for almost 3 minutes. Then they stepped out of frame. I checked the live feed for another 10 minutes. Nothing. The next morning, the front door had scratch marks near the latch, like someone had been testing it. That night, I left the porch light off on purpose. Around 1:45 a.m., I heard it again. Plastic scraping against metal. Then the soft click of the latch shifting. The door opened halfway, slowly, like someone easing it open carefully. I didn't freeze this time. I grabbed my phone and ran out the back door. I waited outside while the police cleared the house. They found no one, but something had changed. The deadbolt was still locked, which meant whoever opened the door hadn't come through it. They checked the side entrance. Nothing. Back door. Still secure. When we walked into the kitchen, one of the officers stopped. In the center of the table was the old lockbox, the one I had removed and thrown away. It was placed neatly in the middle. Taped to the top was a piece of paper. with a new 4-digit code written on it. The officer asked if I recognized the handwriting. I didn't. He asked if I wanted to try the code. I said no. They took it for evidence. 2 days later, I received a small padded envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a key, cut clean, new, and a short note. You never needed to run. I never figured out how they got my new address. I moved out within the week. I've lived in 2 different places since then, and I still check the door twice before bed, sometimes 3 times, because I don't know how many copies of that key exist, and I don't know if he ever stopped trying the code.